Good morning, students. So let us start the next chapter, that is water and mineral metabolism. So as you know, we have completed the vitamins and coenzymes. So next chapter is water and mineral metabolism. So in this chapter, we will discuss about the metabolism of water and minerals. So how they are metabolized in the body. So also the role of the water and minerals in the body. What is their importance in the body? So everything will be studied in this chapter. So let us start. So let us students, let us start with the water metabolism. So in water metabolism, first of all we should know about the distribution of the water in the body. Distribution of body water. So water content of the body is about 60 to 70% of the body weight, and the water present in the body may be classified as the intracellular water and extracellular water. Okay. So intracellular water is about the 50% of the body weight, and extracellular water is about the 20% of body weight. So extracellular water is further classified as plasma, which is 7.5% of body weight, and next is interstitial fluid, that is 20% of body weight, and next is connective tissue, that is bones and cartilage, they are the 15% of the body weight, and next is transcellular fluids, that is CSF, endolymph, etc., 5% of body weight. Okay. So next we have its functions of body water. So it act as a solvent for cellular components. Okay. So it act as a carrier for nutrition and waste products, and it is a regulator of the body temperature, and it regulates electrolyte balance and osmotic pressure. Okay. So it lubricates joints and membranes like pleura and peritoneum. So next we have is water balance. So in health and balance, in health, a balance is maintained between intake and output of water. So this regulatory mechanism prevents. So it prevents the two things. First one is accumulation of water, which leads to the edema, and next is loss of water leading to dehydration. And loss of water, which leads to the dehydration, it is further induced by the hormones. Which hormones? ADH, which is called antidiuretic hormone, and aldosterone. So next student we have is water gain. So there are various types of sources by which the body gains the water. First source is drinking water and beverages. So when we drink water and beverages, and uh, water is taken by the mouth in the body, so water is induced in the body. So this is a great source of gaining of the water. So next is water present in the foods. So the foods which we eat, they also contains the water. So when we eat the foods, the water present in the foods uh, is also going into the body. So it is another source of water gain. So next source of water gain is water formed by oxidation of food. So when we take the food into the by the mouth into the body, oxidation of food is occurred in the body. So when oxidation of food is occurred, so water is formed. So this water is also used for the various purposes in the body. So oxidation of food is also the third option or third source of water gain in the body. So we have studied about the water gain, so now we are going to study about the water loss. So how the water is lost from the body. First one is by through the lungs by the respiration, you can say expiration. So when exchange of gases occurred, so loss of water is also will be there through the lungs when we expire the air from the body. So water droplets are also expired with the carbon dioxide. So next is through the skin by perspiration. So skin precipitate in the hot season, so water is also lost from the skin. So excretion through urine and feces, so water is also lost through the urine and feces from the body. Okay, so body is somewhat, it maintains the water balance. When water gains is equal to water loss, it is called water balance. Okay, so in your book we have a balance sheet of water. So water intake ml per day. Drinking water is 1200 ml per day. Water in food is 1000 ml per day. Oxidation of food. So we gain 300 ml of water from oxidation of food. So total we take 2005 ml water per day. So also water loss ml per day through lungs 300 ml water is lost through the lungs. Through the skin 600 ml water is lost through the skin. Through the urine 1400 ml water is lost through the urine, and through the feces 200 ml urine is lost. So students, when water is lost from the body, it is called dehydration. Okay. So there are various reasons behind the dehydration. So basically the dehydration may be due to the water depletion, salt depletion, both salt and water depletion. Okay, so water depletion, which is called primary dehydration, it occurs due to inadequate water intake. So it may occur in illness like difficulty in swallowing or coma, non availability of water as in desert or ocean. So as a result of water depletion, the concentration of electrolytes increases in extracellular compartment. So to compensate this, water is drawn from intracellular compartment to extracellular compartment. So intracellular water decreases causes dehydration. So these symptoms are thirst, dry tongue, dry skin, and increased body temperature. Okay, so next we have a salt depletion. So salt depletion is secondary dehydration. So it occurs when fluids with high sodium or chlorine ions content are lost from the body. So in this case the significant ion that is lost is sodium ion. So it must be called sodium depletion rather than the salt depletion. Okay, so the causes are the loss of sodium due to the excessive sweating and use of diuretics with a low sodium or salt free diet. So in case of salt and water depletion, so let us discuss about the salt and water depletion. So it is a mixed type of depletion causing dehydration. So in this case, there is excessive loss of water, and along with this, there is excessive loss of sodium and chlorine ion. So it is further aggravated by no free intake of water, that is water restriction. So this results in a decrease in both extracellular and intracellular fluid volume. So ultimately BP is lowered, so also urine volume decreases. So next we have is effects of dehydration. Effects of dehydration: dryness of mouth and increased thirst, dryness, wrinkling, and loosening of skin, rise in body temperature, loss of weight due to reduction in tissue water, increased pulse rate and decreased cardiac output, muscle weakness and cramps due to loss of electrolytes, and also exhaustion as and collapse. So next we have is water intoxication. Water intoxication. So students, the water intoxication is opposite to the dehydration. So it is caused by excessive retention of water in the body. So it is caused by the renal failure, excessive administration of IV fluids, hypersecretion of antidiuretic hormone or aldosterone. So please remember ADH and aldosterone both are secreted from the anterior lobe of pituitary gland. Okay, so which is present near the hypothalamus. So the symptoms of water intoxication are headache, nausea, in coordination of movements and muscle weakness. Okay, so next we have is mineral metabolism. So our body contains 29 different elements. So mineral constitute about 8% of body weight. So these minerals are essential for a number of metabolic processes like blood coagulation, muscle contraction, and enzyme action, and classification of mineral elements. So first one is principal elements like macro minerals. So in case of macro minerals, we can consider the calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, phosphorus, sulfur, etc. And in case of micro minerals, which are also called trace minerals, essential trace minerals are iron, iodine, zinc, copper, cobalt, and fluorine. And next, possibly essential trace elements are nickel, vanadium, tin, and silicon. Third one is non-essential trace elements like aluminium, cadmium, arsenic, lead, and mercury. Okay. So functions of individual minerals are the sodium. So now we are going to study about the functions of the various minerals. So first mineral is sodium. So functions of sodium are the maintenance of acid-base balance, maintenance of osmotic pressure, and second mineral is potassium. So maintenance of acid-base balance, contraction of muscles. Third one is calcium, bone and teeth formation, blood coagulation. Fourth one is phosphorus, synthesis of DNA and RNA, synthesis of phospholipids. Fifth one is sulfur, component of biotin, cysteine, and methionine. And sixth one is iron, for the synthesis of hemoglobin, cytochrome synthesis. Seventh one is iodine, so which is a synthesis of thyroid hormone. And next is zinc. Zinc is a component of carbonic anhydrase for insulin synthesis and release. And next is copper. Copper is a constituent of peroxidase and catalase, which helps in incorporation of iron in hemoglobin. And next is cobalt for the synthesis of vitamin B12. So next is calcium. So of all the minerals, calcium is present in large amounts in the body. So it constitutes 2% of body weight. So a normal adult has 1200 grams of calcium in the body. So the physiological functions are the calcium is necessary for the formation and growth of bones and teeth. So it is essential for coagulation of blood. So it is essential for transmission of nerve impulses. So it is also necessary for muscle contraction. So it helps in maintaining acid base balance and water balance, and it activates a number of enzymes. Okay. So next is sources like milk, cheese, and vegetables. First one is blood calcium. So in blood, calcium is present only in the plasma. Okay. So the plasma concentration of calcium is 9 to 11 mg percent. So the calcium in the plasma, it exists in the three forms: ionized or diffusible form, unionized or non-diffusible form, unionized complex with citrate. So accept unionized or non-diffusible form, The other two forms can diffuse through cell membranes and capillaries. And factors maintaining plasma calcium are the maintenance of normal plasma calcium level is governed by the following factor. First factor is parathyroid hormone. So parathyroid hormone maintains plasma calcium by mobilizing calcium from bones. So next we have is vitamin D. So it increases the absorption of calcium from the intestine. And next we have is plasma proteins. So about 40% of plasma protein of plasma calcium, about 40% of plasma calcium, it is bound to the plasma proteins. So mainly it is bound to the albumin. So and a decrease in the plasma proteins may decrease plasma calcium level. Okay. So next we have is plasma phosphate. So increase in plasma phosphate level produces a decrease in plasma calcium level. So the reverse is also true. So thus there is an inverse relationship between plasma level of calcium and phosphate. Okay. So the calcitonin increases in plasma calcium level stimulates the release of calcitonin. So calcitonin in turn induces the deposition of calcium in the bone. So thus calcitonin regulates plasma calcium level. Okay. So diseases related to calcium metabolism are the tetany. Second disease is osteoporosis. Third disease is rickets, and fourth disease is osteomalacia. Fifth disease we will discuss later. So first of all, we are going to discuss about the tetany disease. So tetany is a manifestation of hypocalcemia as occurs in hypoparathyroidism. So there is increased neuromuscular excitability in tetany. So the increased neuromuscular excitability leads to the fibrillation and twitching of muscles, muscular spasm, epilepsy-like convulsions, and third one is osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is a metabolic disorder. It occurs as a result of calcium deficiency. So it also occurs in hypothyroidism and deficiency of vitamin D. So in osteoporosis, calcification of bones is defective and bones become spongy and brittle. So spontaneous fracture of bones is very common. So it is treated by calcium supplemented diet and vitamin D. And third one is rickets. So it occurs in children due to the deficiency of calcium. So also it occurs in deficiency of vitamin D. So next feature is softness and deformities of bones like bow legs and pigeon chest. And second one is delay in closure of fontanelle. And third one is delay in tooth formation. So if we discuss about the osteomalacia, it is a calcium deficiency disease which occurs in adults. Also, it occurs due to deficiency of vitamin D. So feature of this disease are the deformities and easy fractures of bones, bending of vertebrae and bow legs, muscle weakness and pain. And next is phosphorus. So next mineral is, so the total body content of phosphorus is 700 grams. So phosphorus is present in every cell and in blood. So it occurs as a both organic and inorganic phosphorus. So sources of phosphorus are milk, cheese, egg, cereals, and vegetables. And functions of the phosphorus are: it is essential for the growth of bones and teeth. It is required for the synthesis of nucleic acids, phospholipids, and phosphoproteins. So it forms high energy compounds like ATP, and it has a buffering action in blood and urine. So in case of deficiency, rickets and osteomalacia occur in deficiency of phosphorus, calcium, and vitamin D. So requirement of phosphorus is 1 to 1.5 grams per day. So students, that is all for the day. So next we will discuss in the next chapter. So thank you so much.